Hi, this is Shui with a review of the asics Onitsuka Tiger Gel Point Getter. If you watched the comic book Slam Dunk, which is I'm sure it's not very popular in certain countries where Dragon Ball is all the rage. Uh, the one of the main players, Hisashi Mitsui, they mistake him for the guy who was wearing this point getter, but no, Mitsui was wearing the fabric Japan, which is very similar looking, except it's got a Japanese flag and it's a high top, and the outsole pattern is a little bit different but quite similar. This is the gel point getter on the comic book itself. It's worn by Sano, the final team that Shohoku matches up with, and every one of the players is basically wearing the high top version of the point getter. So yeah, if you look at the comic book, if you see them like doing their air reverse or jumping around, you will see this clear pattern on the outsole because Takeko Inoue does a brilliant, obsessive job of getting the details right about the sneakers his characters are wearing in the comic book. So the point getter, as you can tell, is somewhat of a granddad of the Air Force One. I'm not sure which one came out first, but basically ASICS paved the way or laid the foundation for Nike. Blue Ribbon Sports back then. They simply just took the Onitsuka Tiger runners from Japan and they took out these logos and put a Nike swoosh there and tried to sell it. And then later they got in trouble, which they got out of. So it's a classic case of copying, stealing, and then getting better at it and becoming better than the original it's based on, Nike. Well, ASICS, they've been very devoted to the research. They have a huge research center to study the cushioning and how the foot works for certain athletes in certain sports, mostly for running. They do have the cushioning called the gel. Some pronounce it the gel for some reason. The gel cushioning is, of course, sort of like a silicone type of material. You will see certain shoes these days with a full midsole gel, but gel itself is not supposed to be the right an adequate cushioning setup on itself. It's supposed to be something that complements a thick midsole foam. So they've had it right and they continue to get it wrong, and they try to promote what people want by giving them maximum gel, which doesn't really work well. ASICS has done a stellar job of coming up with the insole foam material much earlier than Nike or other brands did, with whether it's Lunar, React, Boost. They were coming up with those names. Caught a little bug there. So even before Nike and Adidas were trying to start the midsole foam material pursuit, research R&D pursuit, ASICS was coming up with all kinds of density, all kinds of foam material with a scientifically tested rebound and shock absorption and whatnot. They have all kinds of names, from Solite to something else. And if you look at some of the ASICS runners, if you peel the insole, you will see the different colored foam, midsole foam, getting the job done in different sectors of the foot. So even during this time, this primitive stage of coming up with basketball shoes that mostly look the same, they've had the idea of having a different layer of different layers of different density foam, and then the gel is just something of a bit of a cherry on top of the sundae. So if you have like 10 guys pushing a cart, and if you just need a hand and one little girl just adds a little hand at the back, and that actually makes a huge difference. Like you're bench pressing and someone needs to spot you, and they kind of like give you that little bit of a force to help you lift it up and hang it up there. That's the kind of support that gel is supposed to provide. So all gel don't work, but good foam with gel works. So this is a classic case of something that exceeded or was ahead of its time. If you look at a reviewer called Foremost, he has dissected this already, and there's a tiny droplet of gel here and on the heel, the areas where the crucial, I guess, pressure points when it comes to playing basketball, right? And there's a decent amount of heel to toe drop, which is always important in my opinion when you're running around and making rapid direction changes, because your Achilles heel cannot be sinking further than the forefoot. So they do have that set up here. And the Strobel board, as you can tell, is super soft. The Strobel board itself is soft, and underneath the midsole, they're very low to the ground, but the dual layers of density gets the job done with the little dot droplets of gel. So the cushioning is actually quite good. They're quite similar to those modern day low to the ground basketball shoe that comes with minimum level of cushioning with the excuse of helping you stay lower to the ground. So this is quite similar to that. And the Orsolite insole is super thick and very dense. If you want, you can swap it out and put something thicker, like a thick polyurethane insole or somewhat of a Zoom Air insole maybe. It works nicely in tandem with this. For a size 10, it weighs about 440 grams, which is not too crazy heavy. And it does not fit true to size, I would like to point out, unless you have a super narrow foot. You might want to go up half a size or a full size, depending on what kind of insole you want to use or what kind of brace you want to use or what kind of thick socks you wear. But I would not advise you going true to size. Definitely, it's a bit snug. Of course, the leather is pretty high quality. This is not nubuck or synthetic leather. It's some kind of genuine leather, but I don't know what animal it's from. But it's a lot softer, and it might actually mold better to the shape of your foot than other kind of synthetic material. The Fabric Japan or the Point Getters, the original ones, actually use kangaroo leather for some reason, and the kangaroo leather really jacked up the price. But thankfully these days they're more widely available. For this one in Korea, they were on sale. They had this crazy super discount sale going on, so I bought it for like 80% off. So this was only like 20 bucks, so definitely worth it. It's quite the steal. The padding around the ankle, very minimal and just nice. The tongue is well padded. It's got a synthetic fabric material, mesh fabric material with a substantial sponge inside. It's pretty breathable because of the holes, and the leather itself is kind of cool. And these little holes, they're actually transparent. I mean, they go straight through it. So there's a certain level of breathability there. The heel cup is huge. It's huge and it's hard, and it's rounded enough to provide that clutching sensation when you put it on instead of causing heel slips. So it certainly is a shoe with great ingenuity and great engineering ahead of its time. The outsole pattern, it's nice. It's sort of like the DNA pattern that was used in the Jordan 21s, or was it the 20? Yes, the Jordan 21s. Kind of like that a little bit. I'm sure these brick type of patterns have been seen elsewhere, and they're really pretty good, and a little bit more solid rubber traction for the high operation areas. Overall, the traction is decent, and even though it's a little angular here because of how soft and cushy the midsole and the insole is, it provides a nice little cradle, smooth transition from heel to toe. It's if you remember, Steve Nash wore this thing called the Cradle Rock, which seemed like a skateboarding shoe, which he said is sort of like a skateboarding shoe that he could wear for basketball. It had like minimal layers of cushion, and Steve Nash wore that all the way almost to the NBA Finals. So yeah, I guess some people can run around and play around with minimal cushion shoes. Definitely, this is up to par with certain types of basketball shoes that's out there that guarantees you low to the ground, super low profile shoe, greater court feel, and then they sorely lack cushioning. Compared to them, I guess this actually provides a little bit more better cushioning than that. Of course, it's not exactly on the light side. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything, and this is a timeless shoe ahead of its time. Certainly something that all shoe enthusiasts and future shoe designers can look to learn from the past. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Even if the base is not crazy wide, because it sits so low to the ground, you feel like there's a level of security in terms of anti-inversion ankle rollover prevention. That's another surprising factor there.